go, it's Coach's Corner again. Today, I am your coach and I'm going to do my best to answer some of the great questions that you guys have shared. And if you haven't shared one and you want to, well, all you have to do is use the hashtag GTN Coach's Corner at the bottom of this video or any other videos that you see of ours. And we're going to dive straight in with this one from Andrew Epps. After wising up a little, largely from your channel's advice, I'm not starting with an Ironman as my first triathlon. I know the advice is to build up, but where's the fun in that? I've run 2 marathons now and will do my first sprint triathlon in a few weeks. The plan is to then do Ironman PC in November of 22 of this year. How big is the jump and am I setting myself up for failure? Well, Andrew, first up, I think that's just great that you're going for the challenge. You're going big, why not, like you say? And it does sound like you've got some experience. You might have already done that sprint by now, but if you haven't, good luck. If you have, let us know how it went. Hopefully you've not changed your mind and realised that it's a bigger task than you thought, because doing back-to-back events is different to doing the endurance. But the fact you've done 2 marathons is a really good kind of base that you know you can run that far, and that's often people's biggest challenge. But going from a sprint to an Ironman, there's a few obvious distances, and it's going to be the endurance that you need, that mental capacity to keep going, and as a result, the hours of training that you're going to have to put in to get there. Now, when we look at the numbers, the swim, if you've comfortably done the sprint, isn't that, yes, it's quite a lot more, but it's not a huge amount more, but it's the bike that's going to be the area you'll really have to work on, because you've got to cycle 180 kilometers and you can't just go and wing that one. You've got to put in a lot of work. You've got to get comfortable on your bike. You've got to spend some time, lots of shorter rides, but also some big rides on, maybe it's on the weekend, wherever you fit it in. So you're going to have to be very careful and clever with your time management. And that's probably going to be your biggest challenge. And then looking at how to get your nutrition in. So I would say once you've done that sprint, you can make sure that you're really comfortable in all of the different elements, but then you're going to have to follow a plan. So get a plan in place and work out how you can build up that distance and keeping the proportions right of all of them, and then start to incorporate your nutrition as practice for this event you've got in mind. And the one thing I would say, Andrew, is the more training that you can get done and the more you can practice going from bike to run and getting those brick sessions in, the more you will enjoy your Ironman. So I guess it depends what your goal is and how fast you want to do it and how much time you have to put in, but also remember that the training is part of the enjoyment. That is the process. So hopefully you're going to enjoy it, and best of luck for November. That is an epic challenge and we'd love to know how you get on. So yeah, go for it. Right, now we have this from Angel Valencia. Can you get used to riding a TT bike in less than a month? I have been using my road bike and I want to start using my TT bike for Ironman 70.3, but I only have 4 more weeks. Well, Angel, I would say yes. That's my gut reaction. But obviously there are a few things that you need to bear in mind, like how much cycling you're doing, how comfortable and confident are you at the moment on a road bike? Do you feel just totally at home on that? And have you maybe even used some tri-bars on your road bike in the past? Because getting into that position is obviously very different. But if you can, and you've got the time to be able to do enough rides on your bike between now and then, I would say give it a go, because the worst that can happen, you realise you're not ready and you ride your road bike, but you've not really got anything to lose by trying. And as you want to be time efficient, go and get someone to help you with the fit, because that will save you all that time of tweaking, get you in that right position straight away, so you're going to feel more comfortable. So you'll feel more confident in that position if you're comfortable, and you'll be able to hold it and get into doing more miles more quickly. But try to ease in gradually as you can, because I know it's a short time frame, but it is going to be a matter of the time in the saddle and just getting used to it. And the worst comes to worst, if you're part way there when it comes to your race, you don't have to spend all the time on the TT bars, and depends how hilly the course is as well, but the more you can spend there, the more time you'll save. And if you've got that bike sitting there ready to go, it'll save you so much effort if you can get relatively comfortable. So yeah, go for it, and I reckon you can get there. So another good luck, and maybe send us a photo of you on that bike and we can see what your position is looking like, but hopefully you can get someone to help you with it. Okay, our next question, well, this one actually might help Angel too. It comes from Ricardo Goncalves. Hi GTN, thanks for all the tips, very much appreciated. I would like to ask about some advice on stretching exercises that could help on getting more comfortable and aero on the TT bike, please. Keep up the great work and thank you. Well, Ricardo, you are spot on in identifying that you need to work on that position and you need to do a certain amount of stretching. But I want to be really clear here on the fact that stretching alone is not going to help. It's more about strengthening and actually conditioning your body to being in that position, because if you just stretch muscles, they can end up becoming weaker or just struggling to fire as effectively. And you want to be able to hold a position and work your muscles really well in that. But yes, you do need a certain amount of length in some muscles to be able to get more aero. And there's kind of two areas you want to address when it comes to the flexibility aspect. So the one that's probably most obvious are your hips, because you're going to be in a fair amount of hip flexion and rotation. Your pelvis needs to be rotated fairly far forward so you can keep that lumbar lordosis in your lower back, so you're not putting too much strain on your lower back. And it is the hamstrings that will come into play there. So if your hamstrings are really tight, and you'll know the sort of basic tests that we all like to play around with of seeing if we can touch our toes. Well, that is a bit rudimentary, but yes, it will be testing the length of your hamstrings, and to a certain extent you'll want to do a bit of work on them. We'll come on to exactly like how to stretch in a moment, but it's also going to be strength in that area, strength in your lower back to hold that position. And then if we sort of move forwards on the bike as you look at it, the other end for the flexibility is going to be around your shoulders and your neck. And to hold a position, you're going to have to be very strong in the aero position. So I'd say actually there, it's strength first, because if you can't maintain that, it doesn't matter how flexible you are, you'll be so uncomfortable you'll have to come out of it. So it's more about strengthening and getting used to it, and you'll find that you'll start to fit into a position that is more comfortable for you. And the sort of really aero position is quite hard to even explain, because it's flexible in very different ways. So yes, you want to have your shoulders fairly narrow, but then you want to be able to drop yourself into your shoulders so you can keep your head low. And then the neck, when it comes to flexibility of the neck, our necks are naturally very flexible, so I would really focus on strengthening, because you don't want to get any neck problems there. And then there's a very important but often forgotten about area in the middle. Yeah, your torso, your core. This is so essential when you're riding a TT bike, because well, it's not supported, but it's got to support your spine for a very long period of time in a horizontal position, or almost horizontal, which is not natural to us humans, as we now do everything upright. So make sure you do plenty of work on your core. So now let's have a look at those exercises. Maybe it's in the gym, or maybe you're doing classes, but you want to make things as sort of functional and relatable to your position on the bike as possible. So when it comes to the movement around your hip and strengthening, look at doing some deadlifts and some full depth squats, or as much as you can, so that you're getting that mobility in that area while still controlling your lower back. When it comes to the shoulders, anything that's going to strengthen your shoulders in decent range of motion. So I think that the key is, rather than giving you specific exercises here, because we haven't got time in Coach's Corner, it's about just getting good range of movement whilst doing strength exercises. And as for the core, doing some plank work is great, making it dynamic so that you're maybe even on a, for example, you could be on a Swiss ball, you're moving your arms out in front of you and back again, so you're almost replicating that position that you'd have on a TT bike. And personally, if you're not a gym fan and you don't know quite what to do when you head to the gym, then doing things like Pilates and yoga are absolutely perfect, because they're going to work on the element of flexibility that you've said that you want to focus on, but with the strength. And it's a really great combination to make sure that you're kind of doing the two hand in hand, which is how they should go. So that would be my ultimate recommendation for just sort of the best way to make sure you've got that perfect balance. Derek Hitt comes in with this question. Coach's Corner, I have been shredding tires on my cheap mag indoor trainer. Would a fluid or direct drive be better in the long run? Derek, 100% yes. If you have the funds to get a direct drive turbo trainer, I would seriously recommend it. I have experienced tyre shredding myself. I didn't used to use turbos very much, but before I was at GTN, I'd finish a session and wonder what all these little bits of rubber were on the floor, and it wasn't until a friend pointed out that my tyre was almost bald, and it was the same tyre I was using to ride outside, that I realised that's what those bits of rubber were coming from. But it's not just the practicality of it. If you are on a direct drive trainer, you'll have power inbuilt, you'll just get a far better feel, you'll get that equal resistance, and it's great if you're riding on things like Zwift when you can have erg mode as well. So there are so many plus points. Yes, they are a bit of an investment, but they should last, and yeah, if you live in the UK with bad weather, they are a must in my mind. However, if it's something you're not ready to invest in yet, then have you thought about potentially just finding an old wheel, maybe speaking to a bike shop, they quite often will be throwing out wheels, or a bike that might have been crashed and the front wheel is dead but the back wheel's fine, and you can use that as your turbo specific wheel, put a really cheap tyre on, and then use that just when you're indoors, and you can put your normal wheel back on with its proper outdoor tyre when you go outside, so it doesn't cost as much when you're going through those tyres. But also just check you've got it fitted properly, because it shouldn't be going through it to the extreme. Like I say, mine was, it wasn't fitted properly, and it was a very old trainer which actually had rust on, so I think the rust was just wearing the tyre off. So just have a little check of some of those things, but if you've got those funds, I would invest for sure. Okay, now raw tactical comes in with this. After suffering with mental health, I started running to help. A year later, with multiple 10Ks and a half marathon in the bag, I'm starting to train for my first triathlon. My question is, do I need a coach and plan, or will a pre-made Google-aided plan be enough to prep me for my first event? Raw Tactical, great to hear that you've got a triathlon in mind, and welcome to the triathlon family. You are going to be in for a wonderful journey, and the fact that you've already been progressing with those runs, you've obviously got a fairly good idea of just being in tune with your body and how you can move things forwards, and it sounds like you've followed these plans before. So I would say yes, you can do it with just a plan that you find on the internet without needing a coach at this stage. But the biggest thing that you can't get from that plan is knowing when your body is under stress. And when we're training, we are naturally stressing our bodies so that they can adapt and get stronger. That's how we get better in sport. However, there are other stresses in life that you need to be aware of. So just emotional stress, mental stress from work, from family, from just time limit will actually affect your training, and it's all adding to this overall stress load. So you need to be aware of that when you're trying to get this, building up this extra training and you're doing more mileage, that you just don't overdo it, because that's where a coach comes in really handy, because they will be able to sort of look at the bigger picture, speak to you, maybe look at some numbers and just work out when you need to back off. So with that in mind, I'd say follow one of these plans, but don't beat yourself up if you're missing some of those sessions, because it's, you know, we have lives and things get in the way. So maybe try to make sure you really focus on the key ones, and then some of those easier, maybe recovery sessions, if you are tired or things get in the way, just let them go. It's okay. And also, if you miss a session, don't carry it over to the next day, which is really tempting, but you'll just end up adding up and you'll never catch up. So sort of say, okay, that day didn't go so well, or I had a long meeting at work or whatever, park it and move on. But to start with, if you've come from that, so you've got the running under your belt, swimming and the cycling are the two more skill-based of the three in triathlon. So try to give those a bit more time now, and depending on when you want to enter an event, I would say give yourself plenty of time, so you're not putting that pressure on. But just try to incorporate some swimming and cycling without really any structure to start with. Just get comfortable in the pool if you're not from a swimming background, comfortable on your bike, going out riding and making it fun, and just learning to enjoy those sports. And once you feel you're at that stage, then I would suggest finding an event that's, say, 4 months away, getting a plan and following it and building up with that. So that will hopefully give you the sort of skills you need, and then you've got the idea of how it can all fit together. And that's what the plan's the best thing for, is to help you sort of fit it all into your week and be realistic with the amount of time that you can give it, because going from just doing one sport like running is very different to suddenly having to put three together, and you'll have to probably drop some of those run sessions that you're used to doing and be okay with that, because you'll be getting the fitness elsewhere. But yeah, great to hear that you have decided to take on a triathlon, and good luck with it, and let us know how it goes. And to finish things off, we have a question from Ben Kate. Hi GTN Coaches Corner. When training for long distance running, is it better to aim for a certain amount of kilometers per week, or hours / time on feet? Lots of different ideas out there, please help. Well, really, Ben, I guess there's only two different ideas out there. Sorry to be pedantic, but I would say it's what you use and what you're happy with, because as long as you've got that measurement and you can continually go back to it and it gives you a pure reflection on your training, then that is what matters. But if you run with others or you run in a club, there's kind of this bit of a thing that people like to brag about their weekly mileage, especially if you're doing longer running, which it sounds like you are. And there's a bit of a kudos behind how many miles a week you're running. And fair enough, you know, if you want to be involved in that, then I would notice your weekly miles. And if we dial into it though, I would say that time on feet can give you a guide, so you know sort of how much stress your body's going through and how many hours a week you're training. Especially if you're doing a bit of cross training, it gives you quite a nice guide as to the actual overall volume. But then the mileage will probably give you more of an idea of where you are in your progression, because unless you're running on completely different terrains or on different amounts of climbs and hills, then it should be building nicely for you, and you don't need to get involved in the banter, but you would know more precisely. However, when it comes to your longer runs themselves, I quite often like to go by just the time you're spending running. So if you're building up to, say, a 2-hour, 2.5-hour or 3-hour run, because it takes away that pressure. If you are running off-road and you're doing sort of more scenic, fun runs, you don't need to be worrying about, I've got to hit this pace, because if it's supposed to be a steady, easy run, then it needs to be that. And some days that's a slightly different pace to others. So you might not run as far, but you're still just getting that time on feet. So I would say kind of splitting it, going long runs, judge more by time, but use your distance as just a bit of a marker. But weekly, look at the overall mileage, because it gives you more of a clearer idea of your progression and making sure you're not building it up too much. So I guess I've sat on the fence on that one, but hopefully that's explained it to you. But at the end of the day, it's what you like to use. And yeah, go with what you're happy with. Anyway, that rounds up this week's GTN Coaches Corner. If you've got a question, you know what to do. Hashtag GTN Coaches Corner with your question in the comments section below. And hopefully you've enjoyed it. Sorry, it's just been me, but hopefully I have answered all your questions. Give us a like if so, and hit that globe.